Hare Krishna, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 18, entitled Description of Varnashrama Dharma, text number 6. Swayam Sanchinuyat Sarvam Atmano Vritti Karanam Deshakala Bala Bhigyo Nadityanyadi Haratam. The Vanaprastha should personally collect whatever he requires for his bodily maintenance, carefully considering the time, place, and his own capacity. He should never collect provisions for the future. Purport: according to Vedic regulations, one practicing austerity should collect only what he requires for immediate use, and upon receiving gifts of foodstuff, he should immediately give up that which he has previously collected, so that there will be no surplus. This regulation is meant to keep one fixed in faithful dependence on the Supreme Lord. One should never stock food or other bodily necessities for future use. The term Desha Kala Bala Bhigya indicates that in a particularly difficult place or in time of emergency or personal incapacity, this strict rule need not be followed, as confirmed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur points out that unless one is completely incapacitated, one should not depend on others for one's personal maintenance, as this will create a debt that can only be repaid by taking another birth in the material world. This applies only to those endeavoring for personal purification and not to those engaged full-time in devotional service to Lord Krishna. A pure devotee eats, dresses, and speaks only for the service of the Lord, and thus whatever assistance he accepts from others is not for himself. He is fully surrendered to the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one not so surrendered will certainly have to take birth again in the material world to repay all of his debts to others. Hare Krishna. We are reading regarding the duties of retired life. Krishna is instructing Uddhava. Especially in this chapter, we are reading about Vanaprastha and Sannyas life. And the mood is, the main focus of the instruction is, leave home, get out, absorb in Krishna, get out of material world. That is the essential mood. And perform austerities. And severe examples are here of austerities. Like in the freezing winter, one should remain submerged in water up to one's neck. During rainy season, one should remain outside, subject to torrents of rain. One may dress himself with tree bark, grass leaves, or animal skin. So it's quite intense. And Vrishabhanu Prabhu was giving a beautiful class a few days ago on this section. And he made it very practical. He said this doesn't mean we have to do as it is. One has to be honest about one's capacity and understand. He explained how we need to understand the principle behind these instructions. So these are very important verses. And when it comes to application of these verses, one needs to be careful. Because we can't just control A, select, copy and paste it in our life. In the sense, we have to understand the principle and apply according to Desha Kala Patra and especially according to the circumstances in which we are in. Like now, there is a parallel. Vrishabhanu Prabhu was speaking about Vidura's instructions to Dhritarashtra, which also is very nice instructions for Vanaprastha life. We will take that now, some of the verses that Vidura speaks to Dhritarashtra. So with his permission, I would like to repeat those verses. And before reading those verses, I generally give a disclaimer that we need to understand that we can't just apply as it is without knowing the difference between principle and the details. Like I learnt it the hard way. I want to share one incident before we take those verses. I was preaching and one couple came for our program. This incident happened 2 years ago. And it set me thinking about how to present principles and how to explain details. So I was telling them about one example of one couple who are very pakka in bhakti. They get up before 2:30 and they complete their 16 rounds before 5 in the morning. And then the whole day they are busy serving Krishna. Very nice example. So this example inspired the devotees in the class also. And so then, but what happened was, somewhere there was a trouble created in their domestic life, in one couple's house, in that audience. Because every year they had a practice for many years of going on a vacation, like they are financially endowed, so Krishna's mercy. So they would go on a holiday, some European country or somewhere, and they would spend 1 month like that with the whole family, 2 children, husband, wife. But the next year, when it was time to go, the Mataji, she told her husband that there is no Krishna here. Why are we going here? And the husband is a gentleman, thorough gentleman, and also a nice devotee, but not as fired up as his better half. So he got bewildered. And then both of them with the children, when we met next time, she explained this, Prabhuji, but there is no Krishna there, why are we going there? There is no devotional service. And that's when I realized what I had done. Inadvertently, I had told them about Krishna consciousness so much that I had not told them the complete story. Then I said, why are you so fired up in bhakti? Who is inspiring you? Then that Mataji spoke about that example of that couple whom I had mentioned a year ago in my class. So I said, oh my God, I'm sorry I didn't tell you the complete story of that couple. That is my mistake. The complete story is, this couple is a wonderful devotee. They do get up at 2:30 in the morning. Their day ends at 9 o'clock in the evening. They do devotional service. Whole day, every week, every month, except December. No, not December. 1 month, I don't remember which month. 11 months a year they do. And 1 month, every year, they go to Darjeeling and they stay in a hotel. They don't stay with devotees, they take a break. And they have a proper holiday. And they charge themselves. And then they come back. And then they again practice devotional service. So when I said that, their lower jaw dropped. That couple was, aisa bhi hota hai. And I said, yeah, so because you are so busy working the whole year, you hardly have time for your family. This seems to be a great time every year to take a break, spend time with your family and reconnect to your mental, physical, emotional needs. Because this couple, when they spend 1 month, they do workouts, they spend time with each other, they also study. They connect to themselves, to the family. So then this changed the paradigm. And then they understood that, and even I understood during that conversation that 90%, although ideally 100% of our time should be with Krishna, right? Like Prabhupada said, even His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj says, every breath of ours should be like Krishna. The reality is, however, devotees struggle to balance their different needs. That's a reality. And maybe 90% of the time, they are doing other things, and 10% they are actually doing direct devotional service. And in our preaching, 99% of the time, we are addressing that 10% only. We never address the 90%, which is reasonable because we are representing Vyasdev and the Bhagavatam club on the Vyasasana. We are supposed to speak Krishna consciousness. Fair enough. No problem about that. Therefore, it is a responsibility of the audience. It's a responsibility of the devotee when he hears strong language in the scriptures. It's his responsibility to balance and understand that this nectar of bhakti, Bhagavatam, has to be drunk with the container. It's pure nectar, but you need a container to hold that nectar. And that container is stable Varnashram Dharma. That container is a steady, peaceful family structure. That responsibility is of the devotees. So therefore, when we hear strong messages in the Bhagavatam, like this section or in the first canto, we need to understand that the purpose of these statements of scriptures is to shatter our pride, to make us humble and not whimsically change and alter our situation immediately. And that will only create havoc. So therefore, one has to be careful, because the scriptures are meant to awaken our Vijnanamaya Kosha, to develop our wisdom body and to keep us humble. So when you read such strong instructions, somebody should not get depressed. The goal of scriptures is not to make us depressed. Oh, I can't do this, so I'm hopeless. No. We read, we hear, we understand what is the principle here. What is the principle? And then become humble and then practice bhakti. So, therefore, let us follow the spirit of the law, as they say, and not get attached to the letter. So let us catch the principles. So in this mood, similar instructions like here, we find Vidura telling to Dhritarashtra, Evam griheshu saktanam pramattanam tadiyaya atyakramad avigyata kalaha paramadustara. Evam griheshu saktanam. Vidura says those are attached to household life. Now again, I have already given a disclaimer. Don't hear this and say, okay, so my household life is miserable. So, no. Understand, what is the purpose? To become humble. He says, evam, those are attached to household life. Evam griheshu saktanam. That saktanam leads to pramattanam. They become madly attached. Saktanam is attached. Pramattanam is insanely attached. So if we don't rectify, if we don't absorb ourselves in Krishna, evam griheshu saktanam pramattanam tadiyaya, and atyakramad avigyata, and it becomes such intense attachment that a person doesn't realize avigyata. Avigyata means imperceptible. कैसे होता है पता ही नहीं चलता. That is called avigyata. कैसे हो गया? So when a person becomes attached, that attachment leads to insane attachment, and that insane attachment makes him blind to an imperceptible force in his life. And what is that imperceptible force? Atyakramad avigyata kalaha paramadustara. Kal, time, which is paramadustara, extremely powerful and insurmountable. And this time will destroy everything. Therefore, it's very dangerous. Material attachment is very dangerous. Especially somebody is living in a household life and doesn't get attached to Krishna, then it is very dangerous, because that can lead to another life in this material world. Therefore, at a certain age, one has to give up all material duties. One has to stop going to parties, marriages, functions. Stop the outward activities and go inward. That is a verdict to the scriptures. And Vidura says to Dhritarashtra, do it now, my dear brother, you have wasted your whole life. Because you are not realizing avigyata, imperceptible time. Imperceptible means we don't know how it goes, how it happened, but it happens. Have you experienced that? Like, why time is called avigyata? Because how time flies, we don't realize. The example is given of a candle melting. Every second the candle is melting away the wax. But we don't realize it. Like right now, your nails are growing. Your hairs are growing. But can you see it growing? And suddenly one day you realize I have to trim it. I have to go to a barber. Right? Like in a water, in a river, you see water flowing. Every second, there are new water molecules there, but it appears still. So this is imperceptibility. This is avigyata. And this avigyata, we don't realize the power of time because of our insane attachment. And this is, Bhagavatam consistently speaks this. Even Prahlad, when he's instructing his classmates, he exposes the mindset of an attached householder. He's a 5-year-old boy, mind you, and he reveals what happens when a person is attached and keeps Krishna out of his life. Katam priyaya anukampitaya sangam rahasyam ruchiram shamantram Suhursutat sneha sita shishunam kalaksharanam anurakta chitta. Katam priyaya. A person thinks, where is my priya, my beloved? Anukampitaya. When will she be compassionate on me? What kind of compassion he wants from her? Katam priyaya anukampitaya sangam rahasyam. He wants confidential association, private association. And in that association, what does he want her to do? Sangam rahasyam ruchiramscha mantran. He wants her to chant very nice mantras in his ears. What mantras? Not the Hare Krishna mantra. That mantra which will lead to Suhursutat sneha shita shishunam. That will lead to increased affection and bonding. Sneha. And the result of that is Shishunam, more children, the family expands. And then Kalaksharana Manurakta Chitta. And the broken words of the child, as the child is growing up, completely mesmerizes the attached householder. And is not able to think beyond. Then the children grow up. Prahlad Maharaj says, Putran smaramsha duhirte hridaya bratar swasurva pitaro cha dino. Grihan manogno ruparichadamsha vrittischa kulya pashubhritya vargan. Then the putrams, the son goes for higher studies. Putrans smarams, he keeps thinking about him. What is he doing? Putran smaramsha duhirte hridaya. The daughter is always in the heart of the man. He's thinking, how is my daughter doing? She got married, she's gone to her family. Bratar swasurva pitarau cha dino. Brothers, parents, uncles, relatives, this keeps him absorbed. And you may think, what is wrong with it? But Shukdev Goswami and Prahlad Maharaj are saying, the problem is, Grihan manognoru parichadamscha. This is embarrassing. He says, a person then starts getting attached to even furniture of his house. Parichadams means furniture. That is the level to which this degradation takes place. Vrittischa kulya pashubhritya vargan. He gets attached to his bank balance. That is obvious. Pashu, pets, dog, cat, etc. Bhritya, servants, and vargan, Lions Club, Rotaract Club, other clubs that you're attached to. So then Prahlad Maharaj says, as a result of this complicated network of attachments, Chaye shakoshas kridiveha mana karma nilobhada vitripta kama aupastya jevam bahumanya mana katam virajyeta duranta moha. He says, Tejeta koshas silkworm weaves a cocoon, and in that cocoon it gets trapped itself. Similarly, a person creates all these things, but these things which he creates for his own shelter traps him in this material world, like a silkworm. Karma nilobhada vitripta kama, and he is never satisfied. Aupastya jaivam bahumanya mana. This is because he thinks belly and genitals are most important. Katham virajyeta duranta moha. How will he ever get out of this moha? So these are strong, right? And also very nourishing, because these verses, they reveal how this is what happens when we don't understand time as avigyata, imperceptible. Therefore, Vidura is telling Dhritarashtra, wake up, because there are two situations. Either you are attached or you are awake. And when you are attached, a person, because he doesn't realize the time flowing, he will immediately become surprised at a certain stage of life. He will say, oh, your child has grown so big. Like she was so small, suddenly she's big. As if it has happened overnight. Nothing happens overnight. It's happening slowly, but surely. But an awake person, he knows death has started the moment the child was born. Therefore, he is sober. Because this world is called Mrityu Loka. Therefore, he doesn't have fanciful expectations from this world. So both are active. One who is insanely attached, Pramattanam, he is also active. But what is his activity? Kapila Dev says to his mother, Kurvan dukkha pratikaram sukavan manyate grahi. His only definition of happiness is how to keep misery away. Kurvan dukkha pratikaram. How much to control dukkha, that is his definition of happiness. That is his activity. Whereas one who is engaged in devotional service, hearing, chanting and seva, he becomes gradually detached. Kastrupnya tirtha pado bijato ya karna nadim purushasya jato bhavapradam geha ratim chinnati. Karna nadim, the holes of the ears, as Krishna Katha enters, Satre Shuva Suri Biridya Manat, though pure devotees, when they speak about Krishna and that Yah Karna Nadim, and that enters the ear holes, it purifies. And Bhavapradam, that which increases material bonding, Geha Ratim, attachment to Geha, Chinnati, it gets destroyed. So this is the instruction of Bhagavatam. But remember the disclaimer. Because, sometimes devotees think, okay, I understand, like Dhritarashtra, this is wrong, so Vidura instructed Dhritarashtra, so now I've heard this, so what do I do? Do I leave immediately? No, we have to remember Vidura have another instruction in the 3rd canto when he's talking to Maitreya Rishi. He says, how this happens, we need to trust ourselves, we need to trust the situation we are in, we need to accept our situation and trust our relationship with Krishna and have faith in the process. Sashraddhadanasya vivardhamana virakti manyatra karoti pumsa hare padanu smriti nivritasya samasta dukkha pyayamashu dhatte. He says, Sa means what I spoke just now previously about hearing about Krishna. If we do that with faith, Sashraddhadanasya, then what will happen is, very interesting, Vivardhamana. Vivardhamana means gradually increasing. What is gradually increasing? Viraktim anyatra karoti pumsa. The virakti, detachment, will gradually rise. Don't artificially psych yourself up. And focus more on the second aspect. Hare padanu smriti nivritasya. Increase Hare padanu smriti. Remembrance of Krishna through this hearing. As this gradually increases, samasta dukkha pyayamashu dhatte. It will evaporate dukkha, born out of material attachment. And here in the 1st canto, now we are going back to 1st canto where Vidura is instructing Dhritarashtra. He tells him, my dear brother, do you realize how imperceptible time has overtaken you? And you know what has happened to you because of imperceptible time? What does this imperceptible time do in your life? Vidurastha dabi pretya dhritarashtrama bhasata rajan nirgamyatam shigram pashyedam bhayamagatam. Vidura understood. So he's telling Dhritarashtra, Rajan, oh my dear king, Rajan. He's calling Dhritarashtra is not the king, but he's sarcastically calling him. Prabhupada writes there. He's sarcastically telling him, you are a king, this is your situation. Rajan, nirgamyatam, get out of the palace. When? Tomorrow? Day after? Shigram, now. Why? Because imperceptible time has caused something. Go and see your face in the mirror. What has happened to you? Pashyedam bhayamagatam. Fear has overtaken. I can see fear in your face. Uncertainty, insecurity is what happens when a person gets more and more absorbed in material affairs, because that only gives pain. So this is material life. Vidura has succinctly presented the duties of a Vanaprastha by understanding that one has to, at one point of time, finish off all his material business. Vidura, in another place, in the Bhagavatam, while talking to Maitreya Rishi, Uddhava, he has gone to Uddhava. See, actually it's very interesting. Vidura goes to Uddhava for instructions. And Uddhava tells him, go to Maitreya Rishi. Now, when Vidura comes to Maitreya Rishi, he could have directly asked him about Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport there, that Vidura knew that common man is not really interested in Krishna so much, he is interested in his own practical situation. That's why many devotees also say, Prabhu, today was a very practical class. They like practical classes where there is no Krishna. Because we are so much full of ourselves. So Prabhupada writes, Vidura knew that people may not be connecting to Krishna so much. So out of humility also, when he meets Maitreya, instead of asking him directly about Krishna, he tells with Maitreya about the condition of people in this world. So he reveals a very amazing psychology of human beings, which is so true 5,000 years ago when Vidura spoke to Maitreya. It is also true today. And when I read it first time, I was fascinated by the analysis of Vidura. He says, Sukhaya karmani karoti loko nate sukham va nyaditaramam va vindeta bhuya tataeva dukkham nayatra yuktam bhagavan vadena. He says, what people do? They do karma, activity. For what? Sukhaya karmani karoti loko. We will do activity because if we do, then we will be happy. That is what they think. Doing will lead to being. But what is the reality of this world? Sukhaya karmani karoti loko nate sukham. They don't get that positive happiness that they are looking for. Then what they think, then they lower their expectations. Okay, if I don't get positive happiness, no problem. At least let me get uparamam va, relief from the existing suffering. So they automatically reduce their expectation. First, positive happiness. Sukhaya karmani karoti loko. Then, nate sukham. Then, vanyad uparamam va. That also they don't get relief also. They have done activity for positive sukha. That didn't come. Then they thought, I will get some relief from suffering. That also didn't come. Then what do they actually get? Vindeta bhuyad tataeva dukkham. They get more dukkha. That is the law of this world. Nayatra yuktam bhagavan vadena. My dear Lord, please tell me why is this happening? Why is this happening? Please tell me. Vidura is asking Maitreya. And before Maitreya could answer, Vidura himself gives the answer. In the sense that is, it is out of, he's asking out of humility and he's also expressing his humility in answering that question. Janasya krishnad vimukasya devad adharma shilasya sudukkitasya anugrahayeha charanti nunam bhutani bhavyani janardanasya. Janasya krishnad vimukha. They have become vimukha from Krishna, away from Krishna. And then adharma shilasya sudukkitasya. And then they accept adharma. Therefore, sudukkitasya. And therefore, Maitreya Rishi, Srila Prabhupada, and all these great devotees, anugrahayeha charanti nunam. They travel all around the world. Bhutani bhavyani janardanasya. They preach, they speak strongly, they cut the illusion of the masses and help them surrender to Krishna. It's a paradox. Vidura is actually saying this in glorification of Maitreya Rishi, but he himself is an example of what he is speaking. Because despite being neglected by Dhritarashtra all his life and all his good counsel was rejected, he comes back to save his brother. So he is actually practicing that compassion which he is seeing in Maitreya Rishi. Even Srila Prabhupada, he spoke strong words, we all know. But why he spoke? Because to cut off the most difficult attachment, which is very, very difficult. Dhritarashtra also has a symbolic existence along with the historical significance. Dhritarashtra means what? Literally, what does it mean? Dhritarashtra means land mafia. Dhritarashtra, land. And Dhritarashtra means one who captures all this land. So he was a land mafia. He was Don. He was always presenting himself as very, as a person who needs sympathy. Oh, what is happening? Why my son is not listening? He was presenting himself as if he is a victim. But he was actually the Don. He was actually very, very sinister. And look at Vidura's compassion. He comes to rectify the Dhritarashtra mindset and Srila Prabhupada's language and his appeal to us. You know what he writes in the purport? 5,000 years ago, there was one Dhritarashtra. Today, there is a Dhritarashtra living in every house. This is Srila Prabhupada's beautiful compassion. See, when we hear that, we should laugh, we should become humble. Sukadeva Goswami also chastises. No? Camel, dogs, asses, Swavid, Vara, Ushtra, Khare, Samstuta, Purusha, Pashu. You are a dog, camel, pig. Because you're not hearing about Krishna, and we should say yes. Hare Krishna. We should accept it. Because devotees like Vidura, Srila Prabhupada, they don't flatter. They show us the mirror. Mirror may be very fragile, right? आईना कमजोर हो सकता है, पर वो सच दिखाने से डरता नहीं. So similarly, scriptures may be, simply mere pages, book. Somebody can easily destroy it, put fire in it, but they are powerful. They are mirror. So Vidura is showing what time can do. What is he saying? Rajan nirgamyatam shigram, get out of the kingdom, O king. Srila Prabhupada writes, he is sarcastically calling Dhritarashtra as king because, Prabhupada says, nobody is a king in material world. Everybody is a servant of time. And our whole life goes in controlling time. I saw one insurance company's advertisement, Kal par control. That is their slogan. They promise you that if you invest in them, you'll get control over your future. But because time is imperceptible, it actually gives fear. I remember once I was going with Madan Gopal Prabhu to Lonere, and our bus broke down. Then we had to take that tum-tum, 7-seater, 8-seater auto rickshaw, which people share. And we had to cover a distance of, I think, 15 kilometers, 10-15 kilometers we had to go in that highway. And it was the rainy season, beautiful Konkan region, we could see mountains. And we sat in the vehicle, that auto, and there was a man in front of us with his young son, 5-year-old son maybe. And because of the rains, that man had put the shutters down, that rubber sheet. But this boy it was not raining at that moment, so he wanted to enjoy the breeze and the scene. So the boy, collected that rubber sheet and he put it up and he tied it. And the father was watching with admiration at his son's ability. And we were all watching. And as soon as he put it and he sat, that came down. Then the boy again worked hard. Meanwhile, the auto is going. And then again he put it. And then he sat. Again it fell down. This went on the whole journey. And finally he collected something he got from somewhere and he put it and then he tied it. It was perfect. And then he sat, relieved. But that's when the auto stopped. Because we reached the destination. And then the father said, come on, we have to go. He said, no, we can't go. With so much difficulty I did it, so let us go ahead. Father said, nahi, abhi to jana hai, we have to go. He was crying, he was, so miserable. And then Madan Gopal Prabhu looked at me and said, see, this is our situation also. Whole life we are adjusting. And by the time we think we have made all adjustments, we have to leave. This is not just a young boy in a Lonere district. Also, if you see Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister of Britain, now she is no more. When she would give lectures, the whole House of Commons would applaud, the whole world would watch with bated breath. She was a powerful personality. But how did she spend her last few years of her life in extreme pain? With dementia, alone, lonely. Her husband had died a few years ago. Lot of suffering. And one interview had come in Sun magazine which spoke about how she is the most miserable lady on planet right now. The interviewer was explaining. So this is the power of time. This is what time does. Therefore, Bhagavatam says, before that happens to you, you get out. So as I said, we hear Bhagavatam instructions. Allow the sound to purify. And mainly Bhagavatam works at these two levels. It purifies our aspirations and it crushes our pride. If we keep hearing these verses, our aspirations change over a period of time. And secondly, our pride also gets crushed. Because it is needed. Exclusive focus on Krishna is needed. Retirement from worldly life is the appeal. If we don't retire voluntarily, we will be thrown out anyways. Like as a young boy, I grew up watching cricket. That time there was one cricket player, Kapil Dev. He had helped India win the World Cup. But after some time, it was time for his retirement, but he wouldn't retire. It was such an embarrassment. Because, in India there's a different culture. They don't do those days. They wouldn't remove you from the team. You have done so much. So he was a liability, but nobody could say that. And it was so painful. He would not bat. He would not get any wickets. But he was there in the team. And all Kapil Dev's fans were miserable. They were hoping he will do something, but every match was disappointing. Then they thought he would at least announce his retirement. He could have retired gracefully. But we live in denial. We think I'm still young, I'm still competent. We can't accept reality. So he was not retiring. So his fans were frustrated, and in our colony there were some of his fans. We used to poke fun at them. But what happened? Then Kapil Dev started, this opposing team, the last batsman, 9, 10 and 11. Kapil Dev used to get them out. And they were anyway not batsmen. They were not supposed to be batsmen. But Kapil Dev was expert in getting them out. But then his fans would say, tailenders are most difficult to dismiss. So he is very good. He has to be in the team. Finally, 93, 92, I think he announced his retirement. When he announced his retirement, there was such a big relief. So what a glorious hero, what achievements. But when we hold on to our position, it's actually very frustrating. Because we have this desire to control, desire to hold. There was a saying, it is not the load that breaks you, but the way you carry it. So this material world is not actually destroying us. It's the way we hold on, the way we thinking of controlling. It's the wrong way we are carrying the material world in our lives. So therefore, Bhagavatam appeals to us, get out, leave everything, surrender to Krishna. Because let's forget everything else, just take this body. Our biggest faith is this body. And how time destroys this body can... See, if we can't accept this, then only excruciating pain. And then it gets more subtler. We can't empower our subordinates. We hold on, we micromanage. And then we become unpopular and also more stressed because time will anyway crush us. Therefore, in Vedic culture, the training since childhood was two things. In Brahmachari life, the training was scriptures, focus on scriptures. And also practice tapasya from childhood itself. So scriptures and tapasya would help because scriptures are like wisdom books. They help us understand reality. And tapasya helps us adjust our expectations to the reality. That's why Bhagavatam says, Nayam deho deya bhajamra loke kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujame tapo divyam putraka ena sattvam. Tapasya is very important. Gopinath Chandra Prabhu was giving a beautiful class the other day. He was speaking about tapasya. Tapasya, the whole class was on tapasya. How tapasya is an integral part of a human life. And Srila Prabhupada in that purport, 5th canto verse which I quoted just now, Srila Prabhupada describes life in the local trains. He doesn't say Mumbai, but more or less when you read that purport, you can understand 5.1. Maybe you can read. Prabhupada says how a man gets up in the morning, he has to go a long distance to the railway station, then he takes a local train which is very crowded. So he describes the whole life, suffering. So therefore, he is saying, why not accept voluntarily some purification by which we can transcend this material world. So therefore, we need to have a noble purpose when we accept tapasya. And the noblest of that purpose is to please Krishna. And we also need to understand that when we practice bhakti, there is no age is too early or no age is too late. Dhritarashtra, one leg was already on the funeral pyre. He was so old and weak. And he had not practiced bhakti, but it was not too late. So, no age is too late. And Parikshit Maharaj was in the womb, he was not even born. He practiced bhakti. So, and in between we have Pandavas who retired timely. Krishna also retired. See. And we want to hold on. So therefore, Dhritarashtra had a bad habit. Whenever Vidura or anybody would give good advice, Dhritarashtra would always say, so what should I do? Please advise. And then he would get advice, he would not do it. But he would keep asking, what should I do? What is the remedy? So Vidura knew that Dhritarashtra will again say something like that after he told him, get out. So he says, my dear brother, there is one remedy. Pratikriyana yasyeha kutaschit karhi chit prabho. There is, only remedy is, there is no remedy. Please understand that first. Na yasyeha kutaschit karhi chit prabho. Nobody can give solution to this power of time. And nowhere you can get solution. First only clarifies before he starts doing his emotional drama baji. So what he should do? Why there is no solution? Vidura says, Pratikriyana yasyeha kutaschit karhi chit prabho, because saesha bhagavan kala Sarve Shamna Samagata. Ye Bhagwan hai. Time is God who will embrace everyone. Time will take away everything and everyone. So like this, Srila Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport. The first line of the purport he writes, what is old age? He says, in a court, if you go in a court issues, notice, it serves notice, court as is, and they give you summons, and the court also gives a verdict. So Srila Prabhupada compares time to court. He says, old age is a notice served by cruel time. And no one can refuse the summons call or the judgment of eternal time. We can't say no. Once His Holiness Pradhana Swami Maharaj, in response to Anandandaman Prabhu's question, he said, old age 50, he was talking about age of 50, 60, something like that. He said, our life is like going in the road, Mumbai traffic. He said, green signal is like youthful life. But red signal, before red comes, there is yellow. What is yellow? Slow down. And then he said, yellow signal, there are two characteristics. One is, yellow remains for a very short time. And after yellow, you don't get green. It becomes red. So he said, similarly, as soon as you're nearing old age, you should understand, now, can't go back. Koi lauta de mere beete hue din. No. You will not get. That is the seed of another life. You don't get that. So, that won't come back. And soon it's going to stop. That's what Shukdev Goswami says, Deya patya kalatradishu atma sene shvathassapi tesham pramatta nidanam pashyan api na pashyati. Person doesn't, he sees but he doesn't realize. He sees there is suffering, he sees there is ending. Our Back to Godhead magazine carried one article recently, some years ago, on one community in Florida. This community, average age in that community is 80 years old. Means everyone above 75 joins that. It's an old age home kind of community. And they're only encouraged to enjoy. Last bit, whatever is left, squeeze out as much enjoyment as you can. And it has the highest rate of sexually transmitted diseases. So that whole article was on this verse. Tesham pramatta nidanam pashyan api na pashyati. The time when a person should be practicing bhakti, they are more active in sense gratification, more sense gratification. And in that purport, Srila Prabhupada writes in Deya Patya Kalatradishu, that activity should not impress us. Because he says even a fish out of water is very active. If you see a fish, when you take it out of water, it is flapping its wings and it is hyperactive. But that activity, what do they use? That fish is dying. Similarly, all the big things we are doing is simply flapping our wings in a desperate attempt to control material energy. And they have this tonic, Viagra, for increasing sexual prowess. And that tonic is most purchased by elderly people. So that is an age not for Viagra but Vairagya. So Dhritarashtra is being told by Vidura, ki come on, give up hope of enjoyment. Ena chaivabi pannoyam praner priyatamer jana sadyo vyujjeta kimutanir dhanadivi. Your prana will go away. When your prana itself will go away, your life will go away. What is the hope of your friends, relatives, your wealth? Kimutanir dhanadivi. Everything is gone. Why don't you see? And again, in that purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of the chairman of planning commission. India, during those days, had a planning commission. Every 5 years, there was a chairman, vice chairman of planning commission. He would convene a meeting and they would give 5-year plan for India. For the chairman of the planning commission was going in a car for the meeting and he got a heart attack and he died. So Srila Prabhupada writes in that purport that he was the chairman of the planning commission for the entire country, but he could not plan his own death. So we are such tiny puppets. There is nothing we can do. Then he gives example of partition, or overnight things changed. Like I was a student of history, I read the story of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb, one historian, Stanley Walpert, they've analyzed Aurangzeb's wealth. At the peak of his ruling in India, Aurangzeb was the wealthiest man in the world. His treasury was unsurpassable. He was the richest man in the world. But he spent last 28 years trying to fight the resilient Marathas, and he couldn't come. Aurangabad was stuck there. And the Marathas gave him a tough fight. And he used to move with an army of 3 lakh soldiers, and basically they used to have bazaar. He spent entire treasury in that war, 28-year war, which he lost. And finally at the age of 89, when he was dying, it's recorded, he put his head on the arms of his third son, Azam, and he was crying. He said, I came alone in this world, and I'm living as a stranger. What did I achieve? What did I do all this for? He was so confused and so miserable. And then after he died, the entire empire came falling like a pack of cards. So this is the power of time. In one's lifespan only, so much has happened. And we here make big, gigantic, great plans. But after we die, nobody will care. Like, children make sand castles on the beach. You see them making beautiful castles. And the elders are standing nearby, sipping coconut water, looking at their children's foolish games. And a tiny wave comes, a mini tsunami waves, and it washes off those castles. And the children are crying, and the grown-up people are smiling. But little do they realize that they are also like the children. Because there's an American saying which says that the difference between grown-up people and children is only the size of their toys. Both are into toys only. So therefore, Vidura says, Pitra Bhratar Suhut Putra Hataste Vigatam Vayam Atma Cha Jaraya Grastha Parageham Upasate. Your fathers have gone, brothers, your friends, your children, Hatas, everyone has been killed. And you yourself, Jaraya Grastha, old age has got you, and still you are living in another man's house, Parageham Upasate. You are worshipping this household life. And do you know what has happened to you? My dear brother Dhritarashtra, do you know what has happened to you? See yourself. Anda Pureva Vadiro. You are born blind, but now you have become deaf also. Anda Pureva Vadiro Manda Pragyascha Sampratan. Your intelligence is not working. Vishirna Danto Mandagni. Your liver is got spoiled. Saragam Kafamudvahan. And you are constantly coughing. It is appearing as if, sir, raga. You are singing some raga. Constantly coughing, your liver is destroyed. And look at the power of illusion. Aho mayasi jantor jivitasha yata bhavan bhimapa varjitam pindam adatte grihapalavit. Very strong language. Vidura says, Aho, alas, look at the power of illusion. Jivitasha, the asha, the desire to enjoy, is so strong that you are living in the food, roti, that is thrown by Bhima. Bhimapa varjitam pindam. Bhima is throwing some food at you. And you are living on that like adatte griha palavit, like a dog. This strong language was needed because avaranatmika shakti, which is one of Krishna's covering potency, it covers us. And we don't realize, we again keep enjoying. When tsunami struck Chennai, some 2005, the Outlook magazine, I think India Today, after 1 month, they carried a cover story on tsunami's remedy, what all they did, rehabilitation and all that. So on the cover of the magazine, there was a photograph. There are 3 photographs on the same cover. The first photograph, title was 1 week before, 1 hour before tsunami. It showed people enjoying, laughing, basically it was normal, any beach, one day before tsunami. And second was 1 hour after tsunami. Devastation, everything is devastated. And the third photo was 1 week after tsunami. And you will be surprised, that first photo and the third photo was looking similar, exact same. That is the power of Avaranatmika Shakti. Completely covered, again back to enjoying. That's why Srila Prabhupada was very much instructive. And he was telling devotees that as we get older, we need to, actually Prabhupada would say emergency. But for devotees, we can't really stifle away. Devotees can't really do away with their other needs, as I mentioned in the beginning of the class. They may have their ambitions, they may have their purposes, they may have a sense of worth. Different needs are there, which ISKCON GBC has now acknowledged also. Officially, it's part of devotee care. We take care of the physical, mental and emotional needs. But at some point of time, we need to understand nothing is going to work. We need to take exclusive shelter of Krishna. When Srila Prabhupada was in Mayapur in 1974-75, Harishwari Prabhu was cleaning his room. And one pigeon came and started making a nest. So Harishwari Prabhupada told him, remove this nest. So before the nest would be made, he removed it. But the pigeon again tried next day. Again she was getting those sticks and those things, twigs, and making a nest. Again Prabhupada saw, oh, this pigeon is making nest, remove it. Again he removed it. This went on for 15 days, every day. And finally after 2 weeks, the pigeon understood कि इधर अपना नहीं चलने वाला. So it shifted. And then Prabhupada looked at Harishwari Prabhu and said, see, at least the pigeon understands after 2 weeks. But human beings don't understand. So this is the nature of this world. Tase tasya jano nunam nayam vedoru vikramam kalyamanopi balino vayuriva ghanavali. People are mad, they don't realize that just like a powerful wind comes and throws away mass of clouds, we don't realize that time will come and throw us away from our situation. Because we are all subject to death, right here. Anyone not going to die? We are like that, that clock. I don't know if you have seen in our ancestral grandparents' house, there would be a huge clock on the wall. Tock, tock, tock. It would click, clack. And suddenly it would stop. So we are all like time bombs, that tick-tacking is the clock. So there's a clock going on inside it. Any time it will stop. And this society is filled with clocks. So 2 clocks come together, they produce more clocks. This planet is filled with clocks, time bombs. So we have to perfect our lives. Kapila Dev in his instruction to mother says, Yam yam artam upadatte dukkhena sukha hetave tam tam dhunoti bhagavan puman shochati yat krite. This is one verse which perfectly describes modern man. Yam yam artham upadatte, working hard to get more and more and money, savings. Why? Dukkhena sukha hetave. To remove dukkha and get sukha. But what happens? Tam tam dhunoti bhagavan. Krishna smashes each and every plan. And what happens to that man? Puman shochati yat krite. He is only lamenting. Arey kya socha, kya ho gaya. Like today morning only, one of my cousins sent me a message. पहले जिंदगी में थोड़ा टेंशन रहता था, अभी टेंशन में थोड़ी जिंदगी है. You are saying. So that's how life, puman shochati yat krite. So therefore, that's the bitter reality. Now, having said all this, I would like to conclude the discussion and then maybe open up for a few minutes of questions. See, we need to be careful not to put the gun on, as they say, Bhagavatam ke gande ke upar banduk rakh ke goli nahi chalane. Sometimes these verses are very exciting because it can help us absolve ourselves of our responsibilities and duties. Srila Prabhupada warned us. He said, no, don't do that. Because, we have a history also in our movement. Sometimes we have taken very rash decisions of renunciation which has been unsustainable over a period of time. Like I remember one Grahastha told a very nice story about his young child daughter, I think 3-year-old or something, birthday party. He said there were many gifts and children were giving gifts. For this child was holding on to one of the gifts and the father told her, share it with somebody. The child refused. And it became a big drama there. The child was crying and another child was asking for it. And then later on he was saying that I was artificially trying to teach my daughter renunciation when she had not experienced what it is to possess something. So I had not even given her an experience of having something. So sometimes people without any experience, we may just download them with renunciation principles which may be difficult for them to sustain over a period of time. Srila Prabhupada gave the example of Chittaranjan Das. He was a Congress party worker in the British. He actually couldn't get into the Indian civil services. Then he became a very successful lawyer, and he fought many cases. He helped Indian National Congress. But he was so fired up. And he at one time, you won't believe this, Chittaranjan Das was so wealthy that his clothes would come from Paris. He would send for laundry, he would send them to Paris. They would get laundried in Paris and ironed there, and he would come. He was in Bengal, Calcutta, so wealthy. But he got so inspired by Gandhi's movement of Satyagraha, so he joined that. He became a very simple life, and within 2 years he died because he couldn't handle that austerity. Srila Prabhupada says, artificially, he gave up suddenly so much. So we transcend not by leaving the family, we transcend by maybe externally remaining in that situation, but cultivating gratitude and humility, because the process of hearing and chanting purifies. And at the right time, like our Dayanidhi Prabhu gave a beautiful class a few days ago. He was giving examples of Sripati Prabhu. How he had this great opulence. He could have chose to live comfortably in Mumbai, but in extreme weather in Vrindavan, he chose to live the last 15 years of his life. So, and he gave the example of Abhiram Gopal Thakur Prabhu, who was in our own ashram here. But everyone may not be able to do exactly like that externally. That's fine, because our goal is to somehow connect to Krishna. I know another devotee who is also very pakka in bhakti, and I jokingly poked him. I said, Prabhu, it's time for you to leave home now, because he's a good friend, I could take liberties with him. I said, Prabhu, what is this? You're still attached to household life? Get out! So first I told him, I'm joking, don't take seriously. And then he smiled at me, he said, Prabhu, when I have fever, my wife makes kada for me. Hot kada. So if I leave home and go, who will make kada for me? So I embraced him. I said, Prabhu, great. So what is your mood? He said, I'm very grateful to my family, and they are giving me the facility to chant. So he doesn't waste his time doing any mundane. He's just serving Vaishnavas whole day and chanting, reading, hearing Bhagavatam. But he needs that setup, and he's grateful. That's important. Otherwise, we'll become miserable, because our goal is what? Ena kena prakarena manha Krishna nivesha. Somehow or the other, fix our mind on Krishna. So therefore, I think at our stage, we need to practice acceptance, and we also need to be honestly moving forward. At whatever level we are in, we move forward and connect to Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. So thank you for the wonderful perspectives you shared on, using various examples and stories on the degrading nature of the material world and how it pulls down our consciousness. Would you also like to be more articulate and give us some perspectives on what is the progressive journey? What are those 3, 4, 5 things, 2, 3 things which will help us to progress in the right direction, in the right Krishna consciousness direction?
You mean other than the process?
Yeah, because through the class there was a lot of negative perspectives on this is going to bring you down, this is going to bring you down. So what are the positive things that we can look at in what's going to uplift us and move us ahead in Krishna consciousness? Thank you, Prabhu.
Srila Prabhupada has given us the process of hearing, chanting and devotional service. So the more time we spend in seva, and I think the process of devotional service is one, but I think what we need is authenticity. When we hear this is what I mentioned in the beginning of the class also. When we hear these statements of the scriptures, there are 2 aspects to Bhagavatam. One is this, what we heard today. The other aspect of Bhagavatam, if you read carefully, you will find beautiful descriptions of Krishna's beauty. 3rd canto describes in great detail about how the Vaikuntha planets are there. So we need to read those. We need to hear that also. But sometimes what happens, we over on extremes. If we hear only every day only about how material world is miserable, then we become hard-hearted. And we may become Mayavadis. And the problem is sometimes we only describe about Krishna's beauty, Krishna's spiritual world, then we become Sahajiyas. So Srila Prabhupada had an expert He gave us everything. We begin our day with Samsara Davanal prayer. Material world is a blazing fire. Then in Tulsi Aarti, we are aspiring to be a Sakhi assisting the Manjaris in the groves of Vrindavan. So Prabhupada has given us an excellent balance of both. So both are needed. And since today's purport and the last few days purport is talking about this aspect, so I thought we should also taste this rasa today. That is where we discuss that. But I think more than the process is Srila Prabhupada has already given us, hearing, chanting, service. And what happens when we come in association like this, and even when we come in this association and hear so-called negative perspectives, it brings great joy. Because we're in the association. And in the association when we hear, oh, suffering, material world is like that. And then we look at each other, we look at our friend who's sitting there, we look at, oh, that person there, and we think, oh, ye bhi pit raha hai, wo bhi pit raha hai. Sab hai, saath mein hai, we are all together, we are holding on to each other. That is a big solace, that is a big relief. So I think what really helps is at a certain stage of life is acceptance, being authentic, and connecting to scriptures without an agenda, just receiving these statements as it is, without the need to make it anything other than what it is. And I think what we also need to hear, because we hear a lot about positive thinking, positivity. Sometimes we need to hear when we hear from Vanaprastha, senior devotees, we need to encourage them to come and speak about their mistakes they made in the past and give them that space and confidence that, we love them. Like if you go to Indian military academies, there they call senior people to come and speak. So these military generals will come. In a 1 hour talk, first 10 minutes they will speak about their glories. How we crushed Pakistan in 1971 war. How we destroyed China. How we did this. Jai, Jai. Next 50 minutes, they will only speak about their mistakes. So that the present army men, they don't make those mistakes. Similarly, devotees, they'll come, they'll see, Jai Prabhupada, we did this, Prabhupada helped us, and his miraculous preaching we did, Hari Bol. And then those devotees you will see, they will also express their vulnerability. They'll also say, Bhujan Prabhu says this all the time, oh, we would have done it differently. We did these mistakes. So this also helps. We all have to make mistakes, we all have to get purified, but why repeat those mistakes? Why not make new mistakes? Why reinvent the wheel, na? So, like that. So, I think if we do that, so it helps. So, scriptures are telling us these perspectives, and I think we need to hear them. And sometimes it's fun to hear this. That's why I began the class with that example. In the beginning, I spoke about that couple who felt that there is no Krishna. But then they realized that they need to go on a vacation every year. So similarly, our devotees, it's our responsibility to balance and read those sections from Bhagavatam that nourish you, like Krishna's beauty, spiritual world, service to Vaishnava. So many aspects are there. So that also we can read. We need both. When a person is fallen in a well, he needs two things. He needs a rope from above to pull him out. Come. So there is Bhagavatam, Krishna, Prabhupada telling us, come, rope pheka hai, come. But we have become complacent. We are looking at the rope and we are saying, we will not come up. What if you don't pull me out? We have so many questions. So then, what happens is for a person to be motivated to get out of the well, he not only needs somebody from above to pull him, but he also needs scorpions and snakes in the well to sting him, bite him, harass him, so that he is tempted and he is motivated to go out. Right? So, for those who are relaxed and complacent in the well, thinking, baar kal jayenge, parson jayenge. So, we have to remind, there is scorpion, there is snake. So, sometimes classes have to be like that also. Right? So, I think that purpose is served. Radha Gopinath Prabhu always gives this example in his Journey of Self-Discovery course, that the boat of Krishna consciousness, ship of Krishna consciousness is coming to take us all back to Krishna. But we are on a boat that is not only going downstream, but it also has a big hole and it is sinking. But we are comfortable in that boat. So he said it's a duty of a preacher to convince a person on the boat that your boat is sinking. And when that person is convinced, only then he will enter this ship. Otherwise he will think, mera boat acha hai. And the worst part is devotees who hear a little bit, my boat is maybe sinking. Then they put one leg on the ship and one leg is still on the boat. The third one verse in the Bhagavatam says, Yascha Mudatama Loke, Yascha Buddhe, something. Tvau Paramedete. The verse says that those one who is completely in Tamoguna is happy, and one who is pure devotee transcendental is also happy. The miserable is Antarhito Jana, one who is in between, he is the most miserable. So therefore, we need to be convinced that our boat is sinking. So like that. Is that okay, Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
RG Media YouTube channel. Like, share, subscribe.